I'm Sarah, and I am hosting the first of this summer's youth conversations. And I'm here with Hamdi Mohamed, and I'm one of the members of the CAIR Washington Youth Advisory Committee. And Hamdi, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, happy to. Assalamu alaikum. Sarah, thank you for having me, and also CAIR Washington. I am Hamdi Mohamed. My pronouns are she and her, and I'm here today in my capacity as the director of the Office of Immigrant and Refugee Affairs for the city of Seattle. And again, happy to be in the space with you.
That's awesome. Well, I guess like the first place I would kind of want to start, like I looked you up online and it said like Port Commissioner, and then you're saying a little bit more about you're working with the Office of, oh my gosh, I forgot.
Immigrant and Refugee Affairs. It's
Yeah,
a long
Immigrant
one.
and Refugee. A little bit of a mouthful. But do you want to like quickly, like maybe like in around a minute, explain what exactly you do in this position?
Yes, I would be happy to explain what I do in this position, as well as I'm happy to share my sort of like dual roles that I am in. The Seattle Office of Immigrant and Refugee Affairs is an office that was established for community. It was established through community advocacy. Folks really wanted to see a Office of Immigrant and Refugee Affairs in the city of Seattle. And the mission of the office is to facilitate the successful integration of our immigrant and refugee communities in the city of Seattle. That's, this successful integration of our immigrant and refugee communities when it comes to civics, economics, and their cultural life. The office works very closely with both the city council and the mayor's office, and it's an office that's in the mayor's office, and so we work very closely with the mayor of the city of Seattle, Mayor Bruce Harold. I oversee and manage the function of the office, and I work on addressing any sort of emerging needs of our immigrant and refugee communities. I work in collaboration with our city departments to define and achieve desired outcomes for city investments, ensuring our immigrant and refugee community needs are centered in our department's policies and programs. We also have a number of programs that are out of our office. We have a language access program, a legal defense program. And so there is a lot of activity and work that is happening specifically out of the office in engaging with our immigrant and refugee communities. And then happy to share a little bit about my other role as a Port of Seattle Commissioner. I was elected November of 2021, and I made history as the first Somali woman to be elected to public office.
I remember reading.
Yeah, you remember that?
Reading it in the news. I was like, oh my gosh. And I was like, that must be so crazy for her. I wonder how she's feeling and everything. And now I'm like talking to you, which is kind of crazy.
Oh, yes, it was. I mean, it was a little, surreal. You worked so hard on a campaign. Our campaign was very much focused and rooted in community. It was policy focused, issue focused. And, when you're the first time to do something, it is always, very nerve wracking. And I will say that, my election would not have been possible without the support of our community, without community investing in our campaign's platform. And really my decision to run for the Port of Seattle Commission stemmed from, my long history and connection to the port. My father was a truck driver. My mother was a SeaTac airport worker. And I live in the airport community and have been very lucky. And I think, just fortunate to be in these dual sort of roles. And the thing that people don't know sometimes is that all of the Port of Seattle commissioners have full-time jobs. The Port Commission is a part-time role. And so outside of our official duties, we are in other jobs, folks like Exactly. So, Port Commissioner Calkins and Commissioner Toshiko Hasagawa both are, directors. Commissioner Calkins is an executive director of an organization, and Commissioner Hasagawa is appointed by Governor Jay Inslee as the executive director of the Washington State Commission on Asian Pacific American Affairs. And so we all kind of have these huge responsibilities outside of our Port Commission roles. And that's something that a lot of people actually don't know.
I didn't know that. I didn't know it was like a part-time job, but it feels like you're doing 2 full-time jobs, which is, that's a lot, but I'm glad you're doing it. That's awesome.
Exactly. I like to say that, I have, strong time management skills, and I have strictly defined schedules so that my responsibilities do not interfere with each other. And so again, it's I feel very fortunate to be able to be in both of these roles, and so it's been going well so far, I will say.
That's awesome. Yeah, I feel like if high school taught me one thing, I feel like it's you need a planner. You're not going to get through it without it. So
I do have
glad to see that it applies in the future too.
That's right.
One thing I kind of wanted to also ask you about is when you were younger, say like my age, or like going into high school or even going into college, like, did you know what you wanted to do? Like, did you see yourself, if you at like 17 or 18 years old saw yourself now, do you think that they would be surprised, or what do you think they would feel or think about you?
Yeah, that's such a great question. The short answer is no, I did not see any of this. I did not envision myself in these positions. I didn't see people who looked like me in these positions, right? I worked on now U.S. Congresswoman Jayapal's campaign when she was running for state senate, and I remember when she did decide to run for state senate, I was like so excited and thought like, oh my God, this seems like such an uphill battle, and like how is it gonna happen? And so I knocked on a lot of doors for her, and then when she decided to also run for Congress, I worked on her campaign as an organizer. And even then I was like, oh my God, like Congresswoman Jayapal, Pramila at that time was decided to run for Congress, and I also didn't see folks that looked like myself or worked on campaigns like that, and I just couldn't really envision it from happening, and like even happening. So even thinking back as a kid, that obviously wasn't clear to me at the time. But when I sit back today and I do look back on my childhood, right, and the kind of child I was, I can see community service and public service being a part of my history. I was that child in elementary school that went to school really early, and I used to put up the flag in the morning, the flagpole person. I was the conflict resolution person on the playground. In the afternoons when the bell rang, I was that child that like helped the cross guard child.
Oh my gosh.
So like those are the things that I can like look back today and say, well, like I always loved helping and I always loved service. And growing up as an immigrant child with parents who were limited English speakers, I had to grow up really fast. And I remember going with my mom to like the immigration office, or taking my mom to a medical appointment, or she was taking me, but I was interpreting for her.
Yeah, exactly.
And I don't recommend that. And I'm glad we have laws in place today to make sure that children are not interpreting for their parents, because that's just not what a child should be doing. But those are the things that I did. And I did take a lot of like, as a young child, I took a lot of pride in that. And I knew I felt a sense of like a weight of responsibility, even at an early age, which I think I still feel that today, right? Like even in my dual roles, I take both of my positions very seriously. I, work really hard to make sure I'm delivering for, the voters of King County that I'm delivering for, the folks who look to our Office of Immigrant and Refugee Affairs for services and programs. And so I still feel that weight of responsibility that I felt even as a child, taking my mom to a medical appointment or an immigration office. I carry some of that with me today, but it wasn't a clear path. And so I always advise, the thing that I say to young people around my age is, or not necessarily around my age, but that are in high school or younger folks, is to seek out good mentors who can give you advice and, help you in finding the right doors to knock, and to not be afraid to reach out to people and to, lean in on your community. In a world where we face we face so many barriers, it is essential that we are here for each other and supporting each other. And, just as a young person, don't be afraid to reach out to people like me and to embrace your story. Like, my story wasn't great. I lived in shelters all across King County. I came to this country as a refugee, and today I embrace that story. I lean on it, and there is so much we can learn from our childhood and our unique identities.
Yeah, I feel like that's like one of the things, I don't know if it's because I got older or because of COVID, but a lot of people around my age that come from immigrant families, I feel like I've seen a lot more of embracing of our heritage rather than trying to separate our two identities, which I'm really happy to see that slowly change. And then one thing that I kind of wanted to ask you also was, what's something, I know like you have two roles and they're both pretty they can be really difficult at times, like getting things, projects done or legislation passed can be difficult. So what keeps you motivated, or how do you keep pushing for change for your constituents when it seems like an uphill battle?
Yeah, that's such a great question. It is hard. That's the short answer. And what I do to balance, to ensure that I'm, delivering on my promises and goals is, making sure that I have strong people and leaders also around me, right? So I have great teams, folks who are experts in their fields. And building a strong team, I think, is something that you have to be able to do if you are going to step into these roles. And again, it's like, I have a passion for this work. And so I live and breathe the public service work that I do. And so, when you love something, I think it's easier for you to get up every day and go to work and be able to deliver. And, like, again, having a strong time management skills, having strict defined schedules help. My knowledge in government also helped. And that's, I think, the thing that I like to remind people is being able to do, like, the organizing work that I did when I was in college and that I did in high school, helps me today. And so before becoming an elected official or director of an office, I served as an advisor for, our county executive. I advised on things like the county's $12 billion budget. I managed initiatives that invested millions into our community organizations. And, that allows me today to be able to have, both, the skills to be able to deliver and prioritize in the areas that I want to, the areas that I would like to move things forward in. And, even in my role as a commissioner within the first 100 days, I was able to pass an order that invested $4.1 million into a career launch program that really focuses on creating pathways to permanent jobs. But again, like, I have two full-time, like what feels like two full-time jobs, a part-time job and a full-time job. And in order to be able to accomplish the things that I've been able to accomplish, it would not be possible without having strong teams. It would not be possible without my port staff and my city staff members. And so there's a lot of hard work that goes into delivering for our community members in all of these spaces. I give credit to our airport workers and our baggage handlers at the Port of Seattle, as well as the City of Seattle. You know, my policy team and advisors really do keep our operations running every single day. And so that allows me to, you know, come in with a strong vision and a direction, and then to be able to delegate some of that work and trust people, right?
Yeah,
To
that's
be able
important.
to, you know, to be able to be a good leader, you have to be able to trust your team and believe in your team. And so I believe in servant leadership, where I can take a step back and empower people to step up and lead along, you know, I'm leading alongside them.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a group effort. Having a strong, yeah, I feel like having like a strong support system and a strong team sounds very important, and I'm glad.
That's right.
And so in all of the, with your team, what are some of the, say one project or one piece of legislation for both your positions that you're like the most proud of?
Yeah, you know, I've been in these roles for a very short period of time. Right now at the City of Seattle, as soon as I came on, within, I don't know, a couple of weeks, the crisis in Ukraine happened, and we quickly have been responding to that crisis. And the mayor of Seattle did a mayor's concert where all of the mayors of the region came together, and they pulled you know, their constituency together, and we did this huge concert that we were raising funds for folks who were impacted by the war in Ukraine, and also folks around the world who have been impacted by civil wars, right? So it was a worldwide refugee concert, and that concert raised about $400,000, and we've been able to fund the Ukrainian Community Center of Washington. IRC got funding from that. Right now we have about $128,000 that is going to go out into community grants to fund organizations that are working on serving refugee folks who from all around the world, who are serving people who have been internally displaced, or who are, you know, refugees in the United States. And so I'm proud of that response that our team has been working on at the City of Seattle. And for the Port of Seattle, I will say I'm very proud of our, you know, our career launch program. Again, we have invested.
You talked about that, yeah.
Yeah, $4.1 million. And then the other thing is we've been really responding to our you know, our transportation community, both, you know, folks who are gig workers, right? Our TNC drivers. I'm proud of like the collaboration work I've been doing with them and elevating their issues, as well as the truck driving community, who, you know, are another community members who, you know, face a lot of challenges, whether it comes to wage issues, parking issues. And so I've been really centering some of my work around addressing the issues that truck drivers also face.
Yeah, I feel like that's like one thing that many of us don't realize, but there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes that needs to happen for things to get better.
That's right. That's right.
And as we're wrapping up, could you say a few words of advice for the Muslim youth in Washington? Like, I guess it can be generic or it can be specific to youth that are interested in civil worker advocacy, whatever you want.
Yeah, you know, the advice that I would give to young people all across Washington, Muslim folks across the state is, again, I think, lean into your stories, reach out when you need help. As a Black Muslim woman who lives at the intersections of heavily criminalized, oppressed identities that are also often invisible in like data, policy, and discussions. It is so important that we are striving to make sure that our community priorities are at the table, that we are a part of conversations that are moving policies that help us, whether it's economic issues, whether it's social issues, civil issues, that we are part of those discussions. And so, I encourage folks in our community to challenge themselves, to continue doing the work that you are doing, and to celebrate these small victories, right? This is not a short race, it's a marathon. When you're doing social justice work, when you're doing community work, right? It is not something that, change is not gonna happen overnight, and neither is progress. You have to, pace yourself and know that you are, it's a marathon, and that you have a community that supports you. And I would not be in the positions that I am if I didn't lean on my community, if I didn't lean in on my stories, if I wasn't apologetically myself. And so, I say, give yourself grace, do some self-care, take a break, and get back to work.
Rinse and repeat. It's important to remember, I guess, we're not alone. There's a bunch of us that want to get it together. So leaning into that is important. So thank you so much for those words of advice. I will take them to heart. And I really appreciated getting to talk to you and learning a little bit about your story and the work that you do. It's really inspiring. And it makes me feel like maybe I shouldn't be taking it so easy in the summer. Maybe I should be working with my community a little bit more. So
I'm glad. I'm glad. Reach out to me anytime. I like to tell young folks that, my schedules are really busy, but you reached out, you asked for an interview, and we were able to put it on the calendar. And so, again, reach out anytime. And thank you for this opportunity. And thank you for the work that you're doing as a young person at CAIR. Continue to keep up the good work.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It was nice meeting you today.
You too. Take care.